am super excited about how you guys are all tuning in for the Ella Johnson Show. I'm really excited to bring good quality shows to you. That's what this show is all about. I am super excited about this show because I'm bringing some of my very special friends along with me on the broadcast, and we're going to talk about the movie Just Mercy. I know you guys saw it. That's the movie with Jamie Foxx and Michael Jordan. Remember the Johnny D. McMillan who was on death row and he got out because he was actually innocent? Well, it really happened in my hometown, and I'm bringing some friends along so we can talk about it. Why do we need to do that? Because there are a lot of people that grew up right there in Monroeville with us that probably heard about this story for the first time watching the movie. But if you haven't seen it, I want to encourage you to watch the movie, because this is what happens when the system does not work for Black people. And I know that so many people like, oh, get over it. You guys are always talking about this. Well, we're not going to stop talking about it until something changes. Because on this show, it's Real Talk TV, where we can be on TV and talk real. There's no other way, right? Well, hello, everyone. How are you? How's everyone doing this evening? Well, listen, I am so excited that you have tuned in to the Ella Johnson Show tonight. Now, if you're watching from Facebook, do me a favor and just hit that share button, because we don't want anyone to miss out on this story tonight. So if you're watching from YouTube, just subscribe to my channel so that we can make sure that everyone is getting this information, because this is a very important show tonight. Now, tonight we're going to talk about the movie Just Mercy. I have some friends with me here. We're going to talk about what was going on back in those times. But if you haven't watched the movie, you definitely need to take a look at it. But I want you guys to think about something, and then I'm going to let you meet my guests. I remember growing up in Monroeville, and I'm sure a lot of people that are watching this broadcast, you are familiar with what I'm about to say. We had to read To Kill a Mockingbird. Okay? That was like required reading for all of us. Have you ever wondered why, though? Has anyone ever wondered why is it that was everyone had to read that story? I didn't think about it then, but I definitely think about it now, especially in light of what has happened with Johnny D. Is it because a Black man was convicted for allegedly raping a white woman? Now, I know that's not what Johnny D was accused of, but that's definitely what put him where he was. Is it because a white man defended him to somehow prove that not all white people are bad? Is that why we had to read the book? Or could it be that it set a precedent for what happens to Black men when you mess with white women? I don't know. These are all questions that maybe we'll have an answer for by the end of this broadcast. But it does lead me to wonder, why is it that To Kill a Mockingbird has been a revered reading for us in Monroe County? Now, I have a personal story that I want to share with you guys before we get started. Anyone who wants to know, well, why is Ella so keen about telling this story? Why is she wanting to bring something up that has happened? Well, there's the answer to your question. I want to bring something up that happened that we should have never stopped talking about until something changes in Monroe County. Now, Ella, do you not think that it has changed? Well, let me just tell you a little bit about what I went through in Monroe. I was a part of a positive thing where we had a peaceful protest in Monroeville. And it was because of these same types of issues where cases were not being solved, Black people were being killed, and it's just like nothing was happening. Well, when I went to Monroeville to do that and have the peaceful protest, I can't begin to tell you all of the, all of the stuff that happened after we put that in place. So I can definitely attest to what happens in Monroe County when you go against the system. And that system, I believe, is what killed Johnny D. I know he may have died from dementia, but I think the system is what killed him from the inside. Now, I have some guests with me tonight, and we're going to talk about everything. We have a lot to unpack. First, I have Les Prouty with us. Now, we're all natives of Monroeville, all of us. Now, none of us live there anymore, but we're all natives. Les is a graduate of Auburn University. He has a master's in Baptist and Covenant Theological Seminary. He's a chaplain for Corporate Chaplains of America. He's the executive director for the Hope Community Project, and he's a family friend of Rhonda Morrison's. So welcome to the broadcast, Les.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes. Then we have Preston. Preston is a native of Monroeville also, and he currently lives in 8 Mile. Welcome to the broadcast, Preston.
Glad to be here.
And then, of course, we have Anthony J. Clausell, who's also from Monroeville, and he's joining us again for the broadcast. This is like your third time on this show. I might just need to name this show after you or something. I don't know. But he's from Chicago. He lives in Chicago right now, and he's executive director of Anthony J. Clausell Percussion Academy. And he's with us again. Welcome to the show again and again and again, Anthony.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Okay, guys, we have a very important topic to talk about tonight because, I wanted to put a disclaimer out there, and I don't usually do this, but I want to tonight because I don't want anyone to be offended, when I say black or if I say white woman or if I say things like, racist, because I mean all of those things. So I'm not apologizing for those things because you can't talk about this story without bringing up corrupt, racism, white, black, unjust, all of those things happen in this story. So I have some friends that are going to talk about this because we're going to talk about it from different angles. So welcome, everybody. How's everybody doing in your parts of the world? How's everything where you are?
Well, it's actually pretty here today, like 70 degrees. Finally got out of the cold weather, so it was nice here.
Anthony, you're in Chicago.
Not too bad. It warmed up to about 35 today, so it's nice.
It was 83 here. Okay, what about you, Les?
Yeah, we hit 60 degrees today, and all the snow has melted now from last week, so not bad.
Well, that's good. Everybody's nice and warm, so good. You're ready for a good conversation. Now, let me ask you guys a question. You guys are all familiar with Just Mercy. You're familiar with Johnny D. We kind of talked in the back studio, so we're all up to speed on that this story is important, right?
Yes.
Now, let me ask you guys a question. Where were each of you when Rhonda Morrison was killed on November 1st, 1986? Where were you, Anthony?
So I was born and raised in the Clausell community during that time period. So I remember hearing the riff that a young woman had gotten killed at the cleaners, which at that time Monroeville had only 2 cleaners, that one and city cleaners. And if memory serves me correct, I can remember my grandparents, because they were very involved in politics, and my mother kind of driving by during the after effects. So I was kind of there doing the after effects of what happened.
Okay. What about you, Les?
1986, I was in seminary in Memphis, Tennessee. So I had moved away. I'm born and raised in Monroeville, and had moved away and to go to seminary in 1984. So I was actually living in Memphis when we heard about it, and we still had connections back there to the church where Rhonda's family were members, and where we had been members when we left. Yeah.
And what about you, Preston?
Actually was driving by the cleaners after it happened. There was police cars there and caution tape. I was with my grandma and my mom, and I remember telling them, I wonder what happened there. I don't even remember how I heard about her being murdered, but I remember seeing I could see the caution tape and the police cars like it was yesterday. You know.
What did you all think when you heard that it was a black man who did it?
I don't really remember hearing it. I don't remember hearing about how she got killed or who killed her, or I guess the first thing I remember is the stuff we talked about. Is people telling me who they thought done it and stuff. I don't remember the case.
Right.
I don't remember a lot of it. Well,
now, Les, do you remember that right away they talked about Johnny D?
No, I don't actually. I think it was some months later when they landed on Johnny D. I can't remember when that happened, but I don't think it was right away. I'm not sure that it was. Maybe somebody else knows the answer to that. I think it was sometime into the next year in 1987 before he was became a suspect and was arrested. I'm not sure about that.
I think I heard. I watched some 60 Minutes on YouTube yesterday, and it seems like he said 60 Minutes said it was 7 months later they arrested.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I don't remember my thoughts at the time. My guess of what my thoughts would be were, yeah, that's probably expected. That's kind of what I thought. I'm guessing what I thought. I don't remember what I thought. That was 34 years ago. So it's hard to remember exactly what I was thinking at the time.
What about you, Anthony? What did you think when you found out that they said it was Johnny D?
It was all speculative, at that time. It really wasn't concrete. Yes, it was pinpointed towards him, but there wasn't really any hardcore evidence that proved directly linking him to the murder.
Well, there never was in the whole 6 years, right?
Right.
But let's back it up a little bit, because this story, I'm just going to be honest with you. This story left me in an emotional tailspin. And I'll tell you why. It's because I grew up in Monroeville, and I remember when I was in high school. I'm going to share this with you guys and my audience. And I was that type of girl who I dated who I wanted. Who's going to tell me who I could date? I didn't see color barriers. I wasn't exposed to that. So if I saw a white guy and I thought he was cute and he acted right, your nose, I say, if he acted right, then I gave him a chance. I was equal opportunity. Okay. Let's just put it like that. Well, I remember from that situation, I had two teachers, and I just want to show you guys how deep this racism is in Monroeville. This is 1986-ish when this happened. Oh, I just told my age, didn't I? Well, anyway, my teacher, and I had a black teacher and a white teacher, and they both came to me, and each one of them said, "Ella, what are you doing?" And of course, I was a little smart mouth. I mean, I'm still kind of a little smart mouth. But I said, "What do you mean? What do you mean? What am I doing?" And they said, "This is what the black teacher said. You walking around here with that white boy, girl, what is wrong with you?" And I said, "What's wrong with it? We like each other." And she said, "All right, Ella, you just so hard-headed. You don't want to listen. I'm trying to tell you." But I didn't know what she was trying to tell me. The white teacher said, "Ella, what are you doing?" I said, "Why is everybody asking me what I'm doing? What is the problem?" Because like I said, I was always in those circles, so I just didn't see them as different as a white boy or black boy. It didn't matter to me, And she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, we like each other. What's the problem?" And she said, "You can't do that because of who he is and because of who his parents are." Now, this was in the 1986. This is around the same time. What I didn't realize is they were trying to keep me from getting killed, is what they were trying to do. Now I look back at it, and it's just, is it a coincidence, Anthony, that all of this ties back to black and white? Okay, when you take Rosewood, why did Rosewood go up in flames? What happened in Rosewood? Because I want all of our viewers, white and black, to understand how deep this thing really goes. In Rosewood, I think Rosewood was in out by Gainesville. What caused a lot of black people to get killed?
Honestly speaking, messing with white girls.
All right. What happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, when they burned all of that down? It was because of a white guy allegedly said something to a white girl in an elevator. burned it down.
Correct.
So here comes little old Monroeville, and you want me to read a book about To Kill a Mockingbird where a black man was convicted, even though she liked him, but he was convicted of messing with a white girl. So here comes Johnny D. Now, what made Johnny D appeal to the police? Does everybody know?
So yeah, so the reason why Johnny D appealed to the police in the manner that he actually did was because he was known for basically having relations with white girls in Monroeville. So that automatically put a target on his back.
Now, let me ask Preston and Les, because you guys are Caucasian, and you probably, I know I'm stating the obvious, right? But you, I want you guys to understand, because I'm tired of hearing people tell us to get over it, because I'm not going to get over it. I'm not going to stop until somebody does something and realize that we need to put a stop to this. And I think it's going to take some of our white friends saying the same thing we're saying to make a difference. So when you hear that, Les and Preston, that this is a history, this is historically something that happens to black people from messing with white girls, what do you think when you hear that?
Well, I'd heard that, you know, Johnny was doing some things that wasn't legal, wasn't bad stuff, but he was doing some stuff that was illegal, and he was doing this, and they couldn't catch him. So they had two grievances against him. They wanted to get him any way they could. They wanted to stop what he was doing with, as far as run with this white woman, and the minor things he was doing that was against the law that they couldn't pin on him. And they found a way to do it. It just didn't last completely. If it hadn't been for this guy stepping in, getting 60 minutes involved, this man probably would have died in prison.
Oh no, he definitely would have died in prison. There's no question about it. Les, I want to hear from you. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to go by what I read in my memory in this book right here by Pete Early, Circumstantial Evidence. I highly recommend it. And Pete Early did a lot of research. This was in 1995, I believe, after Johnny D, Walter McMillan had been exonerated and released. You know, it seems to me that case, I think the racial aspect was definitely part of it. I think what got him involved was the murder in Bruton, Alabama, where somebody else was trying to better their own situation. And they said, you know, we know who did that over in Monroeville. And so he was named by several people, most notably the guy who was already in jail, whose name escapes me all of a sudden.
Ralph Myers.
Ralph Myers, yes.
Yeah. So he was named by him. By the way, great acting job by the guy who played him in Just Mercy.
Oh yeah, he did great. He was kind of funny too. Yeah, he's
kind of funny, but he had that mouth thing going. But I think that somebody else, so it kind of got connected, and then it was pretty easy, I think, to go after somebody like Walter McMillan and ultimately ignore, you know.
What do you mean somebody like Walter? Because Walter had never had a criminal record. He had never been in trouble with the law. He was self-employed. So what do you mean somebody like him?
Well, I think that, and again, I'm going by memory, so somebody correct me, but I think he had a little trouble with the law, or was known or suspected of, you know, dealing in minor, I think what Preston says, some minor issues with maybe marijuana or things like that.
That's what I heard. Marijuana.
Yeah.
So to that point, that was actually hearsay, right? That was hearsay. There was no definitive conclusions, but
the suspect there was a suspicion of it, or the scuttlebutt.
Correct. Yeah. That was actually suspicion, but I actually, honestly, want to take a different spin on this, because this is kind of dear to me, within the community. So you're dealing with marginalized, oppressed, small town Black community on one aspect. Then you're dealing with power of political leaders and influence and the sheriff in a small town. And given the fact that this wasn't Johnny D's, first time or first quote unquote infraction, if you will, of being with a white woman. So you compound that together, giving the dynamics, and we're talking 1986. So, we're post civil rights and all of that, but there's a huge skill disparity between blacks and whites. Let's just, put that, on the table.
Of course.
There's no doubt about that. So given the fact that Johnny D, from a work aspect and what he actually did, he didn't really work for anyone. He was kind of a self-contractor in the timber, business. However, that may have actually transpired. He didn't necessarily need to go to anyone from a white aspect to say, hey, I need you to help me get a job, because, that's typical in the small town. Basically he made it on his own. Yeah. So number two, that was actually a strike, right? So they looked at that as like, who is this uppity guy? He doesn't need our help to actually do anything. He doesn't want to actually, come and work for us or work with us. So we're dealing with still the same old thing of oppression of a black community, and it just happened to be in a small town, and you use the system against you to convict an innocent man. And during that time, Alabama had the highest death row rate of like
yes.
100 plus. And the reason why the death row rate was actually so high, there was not great public defenders representation, within that time. And the people that were on death row honestly probably could not have afford to actually have paid a real lawyer. So you putting people on death row that doesn't even really need to be there just because they come from a marginalized community, they're poor and don't have resources to stand up against the prosecuting systems. So that's honestly my take on all of this. It's really from, hey, I'm a black man in a small town community. Yes, it's in the 80s. I am, in a racist community, because Monroeville is racist and honestly, still is racist. One
yes.
actually single out how many black kids in Monroeville right now attend Monroeville Academy, which is one of the prominent, I believe the only, private academy down there. So.
Well, I'd say this about, I'm not going to go into what happened or nothing, but I was falsely accused of something, and I had a deputy stand in the courtroom and lie what he had said to me, the conversation me and him had had. He stood in the courtroom. I'm not going to name the little city, Monroe County, and lied. If it hadn't been for the female judge being able to take the evidence that was brought against me, I would have had a charge against me. I've had 2 DUIs in my life. That would have been a domestic dispute. I'll go that far, says it would have been a domestic dispute if it hadn't been for this woman judge that threw it out of court. But I had a deputy stand in the courtroom and lied against me.
Now, I want you guys to think about something, and I want my viewers to think about something very, very key right here. Johnny D was sent to death row before a trial.
Oh, they sent him before. I didn't know they sent him before the trial.
He stated he was there several months before he had to go for trial. Now, think about that. They have no evidence, nothing but one Ralph Myers. Now, I want you guys to think about something. When you realize Ralph Myers was actually on death row also. You know that, right?
Yeah, he killed a woman in Brooklyn.
Yeah, he was on death row. He got out because, see, he tells this story, and he was scared of the smell of flesh burning. So they threw him in there knowing that he couldn't handle that. They put the pressure on him. He got out of death row, and then that's when he lied and all of this stuff. But I want you guys to think about something. In Monroe County, the sheriff was able to, I know back then they had this document, I think it's judicial override. And they were able to put him on death row, even though the jury said life. This is why this infuriates me, because in Monroeville, it hasn't changed. Even when I did a peaceful protest, let me tell you guys what happened to me during that peaceful protest. I got a call from a judge in Monroe County who's still there. and told me, do not come to Monroeville for my peaceful protest. Then he tried to put all these stipulations about you need insurance and you need this and you need that before you do that. Well, of course, you know what I told him. Well, I'm not going to say that because we got the good pastor here. Well, he's a chaplain. He's close. But I told him what needs, I told him a piece of my mind, and I hung up on him and I let him know I'll be there. I got death threats from Caucasians saying that they were going to come by and shoot me when I go on the courthouse steps. Well, you just going to have to kill me because I'm not going to stop talking. Okay. And there was so much intimidation that's going on. And that's why I understand why my people don't like to speak out. Now, here's what's going to happen. Let's say I did a peaceful protest and Les and Preston were standing up there with me. Do you think it would be a little different if it were me, you, and Les, or me and Anthony? What's the difference?
There's no difference. And we
Well, maybe not to you, but I'm talking about real talk.
We probably would have got the phone calls too. Death threats. If we stood up there with you.
Would you have?
Yes, I would. I would now. I'm not going to say I would at that time. I'm a changed person from what I was 20 years ago.
What changed?
I love everybody.
You didn't love everybody back then?
I'm not going to say I didn't love everybody, but now if it's right, I don't care who you are, what you are. I'm going to go after trying to help you. I'm not worried about myself no more. I'm worried about what's right in God's eyes.
Well, I'm glad you said that because I think that's what happened back in those days. These sheriff, they needed to make the white community feel happy. Here's a white lady in prominent white community who lost her daughter. They needed to find somebody to make them feel good.
Right there in Monroeville, right in on a Saturday morning. It wasn't at night. It wasn't it was right there on the main road coming into Monroeville on a Saturday morning.
And they had to pin it on a black man.
Ella.
Yes.
So, Anthony, I want to go back to something you said earlier. So, I think that I think we're both saying the same thing in that when I said I think it was easy to go after Walter McMillan. What I mean by that is when he was offered up by others who were trying to deflect from themselves, when he was offered up, that was like easy. And as I reread this book, Circumstantial Evidence, in the last 24 hours before this show, and I again highly recommend it. Pete Early, Circumstantial Evidence. I think what I get from that is that the investigators were, I'm very hesitant to call anybody a racist. I don't know their heart, okay? But what I'll say is this: I think at least they were, and there were some racial things quoted as being said. The very racist things being quoted said. They were very tunnel vision, and what I mean by easy is, yeah, we got a prominent white girl. She's been killed. We got a black guy who's been he's been said to be. I was with him. We stood over the body. We saw her there. I mean, wow, tunnel vision. And I think the investigators, ABI, later will tell you in the book that they saw the same thing. They saw that tunnel vision. They said like they didn't see anything else. And I think some still today can't get over the fact that there was no evidence against Johnny D, Walter McMillan. There was no evidence. But they can't get over the fact nobody wants to admit that they were wrong, that they went after the wrong guy, and maybe for the wrong reasons, maybe for the easy reasons. I'm not, Ella, when I communicated about this Facebook post I made a year ago about this movie, which I think is a fantastic movie, Just Mercy. And I told you yesterday, politically, I'm a conservative, but I also don't see things in a race issue. I'm like what Preston said. I want justice for anybody, whether they're whatever color, whatever race, whatever ethnicity they are. I don't care. That doesn't matter to me. I have in my church here, we're in a suburban St. Louis County area, predominantly white. We have African Americans who are members and on our elder board. I love them, have had them in my home. So nobody can accuse me of having a racist view of life. But I will say, I think in this case, it seems to be that there was a tunnel vision. There was a easy mark. It was a black guy, white girl. Boy, that'll sell. That'll go easily in the courtroom. And that's, I think, what they did. And I think it was totally unjust. Putting him on death row from the very beginning, totally unjust. That doesn't happen. Why did it happen? Probably because of who he was. Now, I mentioned earlier I was in the timber business when I was there before I left to go to seminary. So we employed a lot of African Americans in the timber industry in our logging business, and had people like Johnny D, not him particularly, but who did their own thing. And I can tell you, for us, it was like, hey, this is a business relationship. I don't really care whether you're red, blue, purple, black, white. I don't care. You got wood to sell, we'll buy your wood. There probably were people, and may still be, who do care, and they look down on other people because of the color of their skin.
Well, of course. And I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned that, because in the movie, let's kind of go back and forth in the movie so we can bring it together. In the movie, when they stopped Johnny D, what was the first thing you guys remember that they made a mention of? They talked about his truck, almost in a sense that they were kind of intimidated. He has a nice truck, and he said, I work for myself. I'm self-employed. Mm-hmm. So I think that was part of the problem. And I do respect you guys for saying that you're not like that, but you didn't have the badge on that day. You didn't have the power to put him or keep him. So we're going to talk about the ones who were. I wish you guys would have been friends with the sheriffs back then. So you could have maybe told him, this man didn't do this. What are you thinking? And I don't know, Preston might not have done that because he didn't like people back then.
No, I wish I had been there. I'd have been screaming. I'd have been screaming loudly.
Well, you still get your chance to do that because this isn't over. Yeah.
So Les, something that you actually mentioned when you stated the tunnel vision. I get that, and I totally respect that. But in this case, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, how does the tunnel vision theory play out when I'm white, I'm in power, I'm dealing with marginalized communities, and I am basically the guy that's actually in control to say what can actually happen, what can actually be your fate. So I don't really look at it from a tunnel vision perspective. I look at it the fact that they knew exactly what they were doing. They knew exactly who they wanted to actually target, why they wanted to actually target him, and how they were actually going to get him. Now,
I don't disagree, except this. I don't think they knew about him until somebody else pointed him out. That's my point of the guy in prison already who gave him up.
Sure.
Who later, Johnny, he wasn't, in my knowledge, he wasn't on their radar, was he? Before that.
Well, so here's the thing. Johnny D wasn't the only black man in Monroe County that was actually doing what he was actually doing, that had his, own business perspective, that was, sleeping with white women. I mean, he wasn't the only one. I mean, there's, plenty more that, I can think of, but obviously that's not for
No, but he was named by
Ralph Myers.
Ralph Myers.
Correct.
And so
he was
my point is
into naming him, though. He was coerced into it.
Right.
Correct. Yeah. Okay.
I understand that.
What
so
I do more than anything is all those people that were with Johnny D that day, they didn't accept nothing of them saying he was there with us. His truck was there. It wasn't one or two people saying Johnny D was with us. We're talking 20, 30, 40 people saying he was here all day. Wasn't no way he could have done it.
No, I think it
That didn't mean
became.
nothing. I
think
can't
it was-
understand why a
I think
judge
it-
would throw it out just for that.
I think it quickly became an easy racial and tunnel vision all mixed together. I'm not denying the racial aspect of it. I'm not at all. I'm just saying that, and I told Ella this, I listen to a lot of crime podcasts when I run or when I drive. And I, from what I gather from all these, reports, is there investigators can also often get that tunnel vision, and then they ignore all of those people who said, "Hey, he was with us that morning, all morning at the fish fry." Now, get away with that. We got our guy here, and we know he's our guy, and we know this will be an easy conviction. Look, if you read the end of the book of circumstantial evidence, you'll find that there's a very significant white suspect that's been out there for 35 years.
Why are we talking about him?
Les, you
Now,
actually
why haven't they gone after him?
Why aren't we talking about it? Did you mention it when you made the post in the Monroe County page? Nobody talks about it.
He's called Howard K. Denmar in the book. That's all I can say about that.
I know, but why aren't we talking about it then? Why aren't you talking about it?
He ought to be talked about. I'm the one that made the post. He ought to be talked about. He's a white man who later in the end of the book, when you finally get to it, it says somebody identified saw a white man run across the street from the cleaners that morning at about the time of the murder. And they knew that early on. That was known. It was ignored, totally ignored.
So one of the things
maybe because of who he was compared to who Walter McMillan was. White man, black guy.
Ding, ding, ding.
One of the things that I wanted to point out that you brought out, that you said it was an easy conviction, right? Easy conviction based upon what? Right?
I think race, tunnel vision, race, the testimony of the other people from the there were people who said they saw him that morning. They were driving down South Alabama Avenue and they saw his vehicle, and 60 Minutes refused this easily, saw his vehicle in front, saw him coming out and all of that, identified his vehicle. And of course, Ralph Myers said, I was with him and all that. So they had all of that. But then I'm not, again, I want to say, Anthony, I'm not denying there was a racial aspect to it. I'm just saying they were looking at all of these things together, and this is our guy. This is our guy.
What I wanted to point out, all of that they were actually looking together wasn't anything circumstantial, right? It was actually hearsay based upon people who could have been coerced, who could have been paid to actually say that. I mean, there still was.
We know. Look, the name of this book, Circumstantial Evidence.
There was no.
That's all it was. They had no forensics.
Right, no working weapon at all. They actually removed.
In fact, they had exonerating evidence to the contrary. They had I'm not a lawyer. They had exculpatory evidence to the contrary, and they ignored it. It's clearly there.
Yeah, we know that. We know that.
You're presenting all of this based upon, to the book, circumstantial evidence to, I wasn't on the jury. I wasn't a part of it. I'm just going to go hypothetically and say a 95% all white juror in Monroe County.
I think it was. Yeah.
This evidence was actually being presented to have a black man that is perceived to actually kill a white woman. Death row.
Anthony, you're right, because if you're on the jury in Baldwin County, in Bay Minette, which is probably even more white than Monroe County, right? I think it maybe was at the time. I believe I read that.
There was one black juror on the stand.
On Johnny D.
What do you got? Here's the guy. They got all this testimony, and in people's minds in 1986, of course the black guy did it. Of course he did.
Well, what do you think has changed? It's still the same way. It's not. It hasn't changed.
I don't know, Ella. I think it's.
Oh no, baby, no, it hasn't changed. It has not changed. It's still the same. I mean, we can talk examples, but not tonight. But there's still evidence, even in Monroeville.
No. I agree. I think it's not over. I think I've been to Monroeville, and I told you this, a couple of times a year over the last number of years, till my mom died last year. And I can walk around in Monroe and I can see a black and a white walking down the street holding hands. I can tell you in 1986 that would not happen. Now,
Right.
are there still issues? Look, I went to Monroe Academy, full disclosure. I went to Monroe Academy and graduated. I'm going to make a lot of people upset now when I say what I'm going to say. I am terribly sad that to this day, to my knowledge, somebody out there correct me, I don't know of a single African American that's gone to Monroe Academy. Why?
Couldn't afford it.
That's not a problem. That's
I asked the question.
There are people. No. There are plenty of African Americans in Monroe County that could afford it. There are plenty of them that could afford it. And guess what used to happen when they wanted a football player on Monroe Academy's national championship years in the 1970s? Parents rallied around and paid for people's tuition.
So what is your point? What are you asking?
I'm not asking anything. I'm saying that is still a problem. Okay. And I'm probably going to lose a lot of Monroe Academy alumni friends over saying it. But if I had it to go over again right now, I didn't know what I was doing in the 1970s when I was 13 years old and my parents said, "You're going to Monroe Academy." I wouldn't go. I would not go.
Why?
You don't need to be segregated like that. You don't need
well, there's some African Americans that think that when we came together with that was part of the problem. Do you agree with that, Anthony?
That was white flight. That was white flight is what was happening back then in the 1970s. I was part of it, and I'm sad to say.
Say that again, Ella. I'm sorry. I'm trying to understand.
When blacks and whites came together, there are a lot of African Americans that are of the opinion that that's where our problems actually began. Do you agree or not agree? Disagree?
I actually disagree. Those problems were there before interracial relationships, started actually happening.
Right.
In the 50s and 60s, you were shot on the spot if you was with the interracial. Both, not just one, both were shot. So let's get and look at this. This was a common thing. You did not do that. I believe things have improved, or they're not there. They are there. There is a problem. Of
course. Let me ask both you and Preston and Les. Let me ask you guys a question. In the movie, I hope you guys saw this part when I was just mentioning it, when Johnny D was pulled over, and you saw how the cops treated him, and Brian Stevenson, both of them, they were just treated like they were not human, and pushed on the car, slammed to the car, and handcuffed for nothing. So that's still happening. Do we agree? Yes.
Yeah, wrong.
There's bad
totally wrong.
That's power, right? I'm abusing my power to instill fear in you so that you will feel that you are inferior to me.
So Les and Preston, I know you guys can't speak for the white race, but you just so happen to be representing them tonight. Why do you get upset when we talk about it? When you know it happens, you see it happening.
I'm upset the way the white people act. There is some that is pure racial. I'm sure there's Christians that say we don't belong together. That is a lie from hell. They don't say nowhere in the Bible about that. We're supposed to love everybody.
A chaplain here tonight because we try to use race, Christianity. We talked about that last week on the show. It would have been nice to have had you. Are we frozen?
You were.
You're frozen.
I was?
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, now you're not.
Okay.
Any pastor that stands in front of a congregation and preaches white church or black church has got to answer to God for what he's preaching, because he's leading them to hell. You cannot do that. We're supposed to love everybody the same, regardless of race, their intelligence. I don't care if somebody murders my child. I got to find a way to forgive that person.
Ella, are you frozen?
You frozen again.
I am?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I can't tell over here.
From
We can
a
hear you though.
perspective, but your audio is fine.
Yeah, your audio.
Okay, well, you guys you don't need to see me. Y'all just keep on going. Just keep on going. Now where were we? So we
I was speaking about, pastors standing in a church and preaching against whites and blacks being together. We all supposed to love one another regardless. Anybody that stands in front of a congregation and preaches white church or black church, to me, is leading people to the slaughter. They'll lead them to hell. I don't care who you are. You're supposed to love everybody equally.
Preston, I agree with you if what you mean is preaching that it ought to be separate.
Yes, that's what I mean.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I've told somebody in my church, and I live in an area in St. Louis County. I don't live in St. Louis City. I live in an area in St. Louis County that's about 97% Caucasian. So understand that when we have 500 people at our congregation on a Sunday morning and we have 10 African Americans, it's not because we don't want them. It's because they don't live out here.
Yeah.
They just don't. And there's nothing I can do about that. I had a guy tell me one time, we ought to have more racial diversity. And I said, well, I'm all for it. How do you suppose we make that happen? We don't have them around here. And
you might have to go get them.
He didn't have an answer. Well, the fact of the matter is my denomination has in the city of St. Louis, we have several congregations that are city churches that are quite diversified in their makeup between whites and African Americans and Asians and et cetera, down the line. That's where, why or not, that's a whole other show. But that's where most of them are. They're not out here where I live. We welcome, I told you I have elders on my elder board who are African American, 2 out of 10. So it's not that we don't want them, they're just not here. We're not going to bust people out. And the fact is, and this is true, we have relatives down in another county in Alabama, not Monroe County, but Barber County, Clayton, Alabama, where my wife is from. And that's the hometown of George Wallace, where he used to kick off all of his campaigns for running for governor. The fact is that there's still in rural areas, particularly in the South, there's still areas where, and this may be true in the city, Anthony, you could tell me, where African Americans they kind of like to have their own thing going. There are, we say, black churches, predominantly African American, because actually they don't like the way we do church. I can just tell you, for the most part, we're a pretty stiff, comparatively speaking.
Well, let me one of the things, Les, I want you to understand that Black people came together because that was the one place that we could come together and you guys not judge us and you guys not treat us like we were animals. So that is why Black people have a history of coming together. The Black church it's like an institution. It wasn't just so necessarily just because. Shut out. Right. Yeah, I mean, and we needed to be able to worship. And we also believe that you guys changed Christianity to fit what you wanted us to do. I mean, just being real, because last week we talked about this and how Christianity actually gave slavery life. And we were taught Christianity by you, not you, meaning you, but by white people. We were taught Christianity and we couldn't read. So how do we know what the Bible said? We just believed. One part from I don't know why I'm going down this road, but when I was watching the Nat Turner, and the thing that struck me as odd in that was how the only thing they would allow him to read was the Bible. But they used the Bible for him to keep the slaves in line by saying things like, slaves, obey your masters, for this is right in the Lord. So we were thinking that we're supposed to be beaten. We're thinking that this is what it's supposed to be, to suffer. Well, Jesus suffered on the cross. Well, listen, I'm of the mindset that if Jesus suffered, then why do I need to? Don't put me up on that cross because I'm not dying for none of y'all. I'm just being real. I'm not going to die for you. Okay, y'all don't even like me, so why am I gonna die for you? But he was different. So my point is, I'm just trying to get you to understand why is it sometimes that Black people disassociate themselves from your congregations is because we feel more comfortable being amongst, because they understand what I'm going through better than you. You may water down the message. Over here at Bethel Baptist, they're not gonna water it down. We're gonna talk real over there. So that's what that was. It's not that we don't want to go to church with you, but for the record, I have gone to predominantly Caucasian churches, and I fall asleep because I like praise and worship. I'm just being real.
That's the point.
I fall asleep.
Come to the cave ministries. I guarantee you will not go to sleep.
All right. Well, I'm just saying.
Church in St. Louis, come visit me anytime.
I will remember that.
Every black church I've been to, I've been warmly welcomed. Everybody came up, hugged our neck. Of course, I've been in white churches where I was invited by a couple to a white church, told me it was like a small church. Went there, probably 150, 200 people there. Saw the people that invited us, and they didn't even speak to us. That was the only time we went to that church. But that was a white church.
Well, can I go back to the subject matter?
Yeah, let's go back. Yes, let's go back.
So if I could, I know we're running out of time here in a few minutes. I think that Walter McMillan was, and I've said this to you, Ella, privately. I think Walter McMillan was completely unjustly targeted and convicted. His civil rights as a United States citizen, I believe, I don't know if legally they were violated, but I think in the spirit were violated when he was kept on death row from the very beginning, before he was ever even convicted,
Exactly.
And then he was convicted. And it took several steps along the way to get anybody to even listen to the evidence that would exonerate him. And I think that was horrible. And it probably led to his early death in 2013. I don't even need, so that's one thing. The other thing is, because of the fact that they went after the wrong guy for, as we've all said, probably racial, probably tunnel vision, probably inept investigations, all combined.
It was all of those. No problem. It was
just like
yes.
Keystone Cops, and I'm terribly ashamed to be a human being right now about all that. But because of that, Rhonda's family, there's no justice for Rhonda and her family.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
There was injustice all the way around.
Yes.
And that's not to say that there wasn't injustice for Walter McMillan, Johnny D. There was injustice for him. Yeah. I don't know. I can't remember if he ever got remuneration from the state, but he should have for his time in jail. I know there was like a legislative effort to do that. I don't know if it ever happened. I can't remember. But he should have gotten it because they wrongly convicted him, and there was plenty of evidence to say he didn't do it. It was ignored, totally ignored. At the same time, Rhonda's mom is still living. Rhonda's death has never been, justice has never been served. That means there's a killer out there somewhere who
absolutely
still did that deed and has never paid a price for it.
Yes.
Well, there's no amount of money that want me to go through what either families went through.
There's no
That's
amount of money.
So let me ask every one of you, each of you, do you believe that this case needs to be reopened? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely.
I would. My heart tells me that it's too much evidence lost that they probably won't never be able to do nothing about it. But I wish something would happen. I believe the man that did it is dead now. But still, that don't give him a reason to be got away with it,
I'm not so sure he is. I'm not so sure.
You guys act like you know who did it. I'm just saying.
Well,
I know, right?
Well, I'm gonna start something here.
All mine is from hearsay, so I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not so sure he is, but maybe he is. I don't know. But here's the thing. Reopening and pursuing this investigation can do two things. It can bring justice to Rhonda and her family and her death, but can also bring final exoneration to Walter McMillan, Johnny
Absolutely.
D, because there's still people believe he did it.
Like I
He
said,
didn't
Wait
do
a
it.
minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Whoa. Wait a minute. A minute. Wait a minute. You're telling me after the movie, after all of this stuff that we're seeing on Johnny and what's been going on, are you telling me that you personally know people that think Johnny D still killed Rhonda Morrison?
Yeah.
Wow. Do you think
I
Rhonda's mother? Do you think Rhonda's mother believes that Johnny D killed her daughter?
No.
Okay.
I haven't
I don't.
heard anybody say that they still believe Johnny D did it.
I'll tell you this,
And
Ella, when we opened up this comment stream on Facebook a year ago, there were people that got pretty upset and did not like the fact that I did it.
I saw that.
They wanted it shut down. They did not like it. They said it reflects bad on Monroeville and Monroe County. I'm like, what the heck?
So,
how's it going to completely change if it's not brought into the open and change made?
to Les' point, when he was saying that it reflects bad because that old school was actually still in power. The old way of thinking was actually still in power. So to your point, reopening the case brings closure and justice to Rhonda and her family, but it will also bring additional closure and justice to Johnny D and the Monroeville community for the folks who still believe that he is the killer, regardless of all of the 60 Minutes, regardless of the movie, regardless of the book Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson. I think that actually needs to actually occur.
So what do we do about it right here tonight? What do we do about it? So if we want to, because I think it would, I really think it would be good reopening the case coming from the white community, because and we all get involved. Now I know I'm putting you guys on the spot, but that's kind of what I do. Would you guys be interested in joining together so that we can make some noise about this and give Johnny D's family complete exoneration and giving peace of mind to Rhonda's mother? Her dad's already gone home to be with God. So would you guys be willing to do that? Yes or no?
Yes.
Sure. I don't know what that means, but yeah. Look, there's a new sheriff.
I don't know what it means yet.
Yeah.
Huh?
Isn't there a new sheriff?
There is a new sheriff in town. And I think that we need to do something in Monroe County about unsolved murders, because they become cold way too fast. Yes.
Anybody that knows, anybody here that knows any national broadcasters of podcast crime, contact them. Like I did that. I hadn't heard anything, but see if somebody will bring the media into Monroeville and open this thing up and blow it wide open.
Well, the only thing about media is recent years the media has ruined itself. It's like they want to be the first one to put it out there regardless. They don't find no kind of facts. They throw it out there. This is what happened. This way it was. So many people don't watch the news no more. Now, podcasts or something like that, yes. But the mainstream media, you cannot trust them. They're going to say what they want to say to get the most viewers.
Well, so then we'll do it ourselves.
I was talking about
here's the issue, guys, and it's very simple.
Contact this guy right here.
I will definitely do that.
Go to his website and contact him.
Here's where the problem is, guys, before we get out of here. It's the same thing as in Orlando. Orlando is known for Disney. Do you really think Orlando wants to be seen as a place where Black people don't like our governor? Because I personally do not like the governor. I think he's an idiot. And do you think they want to see protests in the streets like the one I went to downtown? Do you think they want to see that? No, they want to protect that image. And that's the same thing that's happening in Monroeville. Monroeville has prides itself in being the To Kill a Mockingbird. And I think that's an insult, because my thing is, well, what part of To Kill a Mockingbird are you trying to revere? What part is it that you want me to like? Is it the part where he was convicted of allegedly raping a white woman? Is it the part where a white man was able to, help him in the case, even though he got convicted, so we can feel like, oh, white people are not bad? Which part is it that you want me to get from it? Because I'm offended that Monroeville still, to this day, is known for To Kill a Mockingbird. Let's see if we're going to hear them talk about Just Mercy, because this is the flip side of it. This is the part where we talk about corrupt police officers who remained there for years later. And I ran across some of this same stuff, so I'm telling you what I know. Okay, I'm going to show you guys something real quick here before we get out of here. I want you guys to all, everybody that's watching this broadcast, I'm going to show this right here. I want you guys to take a look at that. This is my proof. What happens in Monroeville. Now, I was in Monroeville to do a protest. And I want you to see on the left side of your screen, this is the email I received from City Council telling me we don't need concerned citizens for change in Monroe County. These are public citizens that voted for these people. And they said, don't come back. And then, of course, on the right, you see my response, that you can't deny us the right to come.
They said there's no longer the opportunity to come and speak at a city council.
They said, we don't need you to come. We don't need you to come. We don't want to hear what you got to say. Concerned citizens of Monroe County is what we called ourselves. Now, let me just tell you what I did. Now, how many of you guys think I stayed at home? No, I took the last 2 days I had in PPO, in what do you call it? Personal time. PTO. I took the PTO. Thinking about insurance. I took the last 2 days I had and I went to Monroeville just to sit on the front seat with a burgundy wig on, okay, to make sure they saw me. And this is the type of attitude that you have to deal with people like Monroe County. I don't know why we're so afraid of them. I don't know why we're intimidated by them, but I wasn't. I was willing to die for mine because my people have suffered enough. And I am differentiating that because you don't know what it's like to be judged by the color of your skin. You may not, I'm not going to assume you don't, but you may not have had to deal with that. But there are people watching this broadcast who have. And there are people watching this broadcast who still in 21, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, I can't just go on and on. This is still happening. You may not have had to deal with that. We're still dealing with this in 2021. And what I want from Caucasians, the ones who look at us as if we need to get over it, I need you to understand that we're not going to get over it. You don't get to say when we need to get over it. We're not going to get over it till we see things change. Now, because we're talking about a case that happened in Monroeville, Alabama, I think that we can all come together, because I hope you guys aren't just saying that for the broadcast, because I am going to call you out. I'm going to call you back and I'm going to say, look, let's, remember what you said on the Ella Johnson show? Let's do it, because I think that we're going to, we can make things happen when we stand together. If you don't like what happened to Johnny D, you should not have a problem saying it, even amongst the people that won't like it. Right or wrong?
Right. I'll stand beside you on any peaceful protest.
Of course. We're not going to, we're peaceful. My protest was peaceful.
Any peaceful protest, I'll stand right beside you.
Okay. All right. I like it. I didn't hear from Les, though.
A long ways away. I'm just a long ways away, but I would too.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll get you. I'll buy your flight. I'll buy your ticket. If you'll stand beside us, because listen, none of us live there anymore. So why do we care? We care because we grew up there. And these are
show up for the city council meeting.
I think you should show up with me.
Well, let's do it.
All right.
If we can work the time out, I'm ready.
You haven't said anything, and Anthony and Preston, because this is what it's going to take, guys. But we're going to go ahead and get out of here, because we're going to come back tomorrow night. We're not done with the subject. I know we got way off Johnny D and all that, but I think all of it's important. But I want to make sure that you guys don't have anything else you want to end with before we get off tonight. Anthony?
Nope. Save it for tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll save it for tomorrow. What about you, Preston?
I'll be back for tomorrow.
And you're coming back tomorrow too, Les, right?
I won't be able to be here tomorrow night, but I'll
we'll
be here in
miss you.
spirit. I'll be here in spirit. I'm with you in the cause of justice. So Just
That's
mercy.
what I wanted to hear. Just mercy. All right, guys. Well, listen, it has been a wonderful conversation tonight. My guests are here, and I'm so excited. I'm so glad that we're able to have a mature conversation without anyone feeling, offended. But the only way we can talk about this is talk real about it. But I think it's important to have both sides and both points of views heard.
Yeah.
That's very important on this show. All right, guys.
Amen.
Well, I want to thank
God
all
bless
of
you
you
all.
that tuned in. Let me see. I want to try to address some of the people that I see somebody that said they already spoke with Pete Early. Oh, Trey did. Trey Hurry is on the broadcast, and she said that she's already spoke with Pete Early. But we need to talk, Trey, because we need to get him. And I just want to thank all of you guys for tuning in to the broadcast tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night right here on Facebook Live and YouTube Live, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to finish this conversation. But for everybody, have a great evening, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Bye.
God bless.
Good evening.
God bless you. Bye.